This is part A of the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast on the internet under the banner of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions. This is the first part A, on Sunday, the 29th of October 2023. In the Sunday Times today, there is further so-called long overdue updates on the mega corruption and looting via HS2 of the public funds allegedly belonging to the ordinary people in the United Kingdom. Should be talking about that in a minute. So this is the one that a supposed whistleblower struggling to find work after leaving the project, that is HS2, but has no regrets. So this is the one that we are talking about. Stephen Cresswell. What does it take to raise the alarm about wrongdoing, even if you know it could end your flourishing career? What compels someone to risk their livelihood to bear witness to fraud? Stephen Cresswell is one of the people who knows. Last weekend, the Sunday Times reported allegations that HS2 had deliberately covered up the escalating costs of its high-speed line to ensure that politicians would keep spending billions of pounds of public money on the project. Cresswell, 51, a former senior cost analyst on the HS2 project, was one of the whistleblowers who claimed that senior managers had instructed staff to keep cost estimates artificially low to cover up budget overruns. Why did he do it? Raised in Chesterfield in Derbyshire, Cresswell is the son of a doctor and a nurse who both had a strong Christian faith. You have to live by your values, he says. And I don't want a career that is based on helping fraudsters. I'd rather have a different career. He believes he was uniquely placed to blow the whistle because of his expertise in forecasting the cost of major infrastructure projects. Now, all of this could be easily, most effectively, factually, evidentially extrapolated onto DEFRA. And DEFRA could be replaced as the name or the title for HS2. Now, why is it that for years the liars within DEFRA continued to lie against baby angel Geronimo? What happened to the idea of whistleblowing? Why wasn't there a Cresswell within the DEFRA? Or has there been? Or have there been more than one Cresswells within DEFRA who have been gagged and suffocated, threatened, intimidated, or bribed and silenced? Innal batila kana zahuka. Inevitably, falsehood is going to be exposed and seen for what it is. It's only a matter of time. Falsehood, confecting the series of lies against baby angel Geronimo, the most innocent, is something that has happened and is still persisting within DEFRA. And that must be brought out into the public. There are people who think it is an outrage, but they are just not in a position to do anything about it, he says, because they don't have access to the figures. Married with two daughters, Creswell has made a lifelong habit of standing up to wrongdoing. He graduated from Lancaster University with a degree in physics and worked in communications industry in the 1990s. It was here that he blew the whistle for the first time when a manager colleague tried to cut him in to an improper scheme to siphon off their company's cash. I don't know why he even thought I would do it, he recalls. His allegations were taken seriously, but he left and forged a new career as a risk manager, gaining an expertise in forecasting the true cost of big infrastructure projects such as Heathrow and Thameslink. In 2012, Creswell did a short stint working on costs for the building of the nuclear power station Hinkley Point C in Somerset. It was there that he alleges he first came across managers giving instructions to artificially downgrade estimates. I was told by a manager, don't put that down. You will kill the job. They wanted me to falsify Innal batila kana zahuka. Falsehood. Batil. They wanted me to falsify what had happened. He resigned almost immediately, though didn't blow the whistle because he didn't have the evidence. His first experience of HS2 was in 2014. Innal batila kana zahuka. His first experience of HS2 was in 2014 when he was hired for 6 weeks to help cost the London to Birmingham stretch of the line. He says it was an eye opener. This first phase was expected to cost £21 billion, and his calculations suggested a fairer assessment was £30 billion. A huge discrepancy, £9 billion. There were problems with the way the figures had been calculated, and it was likely to cost an awful lot more. He says, I did the calculations pointing this out, but I was told to concentrate my efforts on something else. The following year, in June 2015, Creswell bumped into his local MP, Dominic Raab, while out shopping near his home in Walton on Thames, Surrey. He said it was time to raise his concerns about HS2 and Hinkley Point. Costs, risks, timescales, and benefits are being manipulated to suit individuals or organizational goals rather than the public interest, he wrote in a follow up email to Raab. Raab passed the letter to Matt Hancock, then the cabinet minister with responsibility for big projects, who batted it away, explaining that forecasting on such projects was always challenging. Creswell returned to work for HS2 in 2018, hoping that the company's culture changed, and worked there until September 2022. when the company decided not to renew his contract. A few months before his departure, Creswell wrote a memo to his immediate colleagues, making a series of allegations about the way figures were being manipulated to deceive the government. I knew when I wrote the memo in March that I would be made to leave HS2, he says. His, he alleges that in general the company deployed a classic playback used on big publicity funded, I'll read that again, used on big publicly funded construction projects, holding back real information on costs until after the Department for Transport, DFT, had given approval to start work. The company denies any wrongdoing and insists that Parliament was not misled over the cost of the project. A spokesman pointed out last week that the DFT had a quality assurance team embedded within HS2 and officials could sit in on the company's meetings. It said it worked closely with the DFT and at all levels. Creswell is nothing if not deterred, however. He made repeated attempts to find someone independent to investigate the allegations. He raised these concerns with two ex-police detectives working for HS2 Limited's counter fraud and ethics team in July. He has also contacted Rab again, the rail minister Hugh Merriman, the Serious Fraud Office, the National Audit Office, the government's internal audit agency, and HS2's chairman. But all routes led back to HS2, which is now investigating itself. Creswell is yet to be convinced that his allegations will be treated seriously. The lack of openness and clarity and the fact that they are investigating themselves does not even inspire trust. Yesterday, the Times reported that at least two engineering experts who previously worked on the project at HS2 have written to the Serious Fraud Office raising concerns about mismanagement of public funds. The newspaper understands that, that at least a dozen employees connected to the project have submitted documents to the Serious Fraud Office. The company said it was not aware of any fresh allegations being made to the SFO. Meanwhile, Creswell has been experiencing some of the adverse consequences of his decision to blow the whistle. It took a year for him to find a job on a construction project after leaving HS2, and he fears he may have been cold shouldered by the industry. It has been difficult financially, but my wife is supporting because she believes I did the right thing. She just wants me to get out of the industry. He may well do exactly that. Creswell is now looking into a totally different high speed project, manufacturing motorized sailing yachts. Employees who report wrongdoing in their workplace are protected from being unfairly treated or dismissed under the Public Interest Disclosure Act 1998. The government is carrying out a review to determine whether the laws need to be strengthened. That's it. That's not good enough. That is not anywhere near what should be happening. There should be prosecutions already, and the whole HS2 project should be scrapped, not parts of it, all of it. There is a piece in the Sunday Times saying that Starmer's authority threatened as frontbenchers demand Gaza ceasefire. Matthew Hancrook, the name we gave him, is a crook. There is another piece in the Sunday Times under investigations headed the Hancock backed app that promised an NHS revolution, then went down in flames. Babylon Healthcare won NHS contracts after being championed by Matt Hancock. But the company's artificial intelligence tech was oversold and it has now collapsed. The NHS spent millions of pounds on a flawed artificial intelligence chatbot whose creator used aggressive sales techniques and overpromised what it could do, former staff have claimed. Babylon Health, the tech startup championed by Matt Hancock and advised by Dominic Cummings, good grief, promised that its AI chatbot could keep patients who didn't need to be seen by a health professional out of the overstressed NHS. But the technology was not as sophisticated as the company claimed, with former staff now claiming that what began as a crude tool based on decision trees written by doctors put into an Excel spreadsheet never realized its promised potential. Concerns including the fact the app missed clear signs of a heart attack or dangerous blood clots were raised with regulators which failed to intervene or lacked powers to do so. Babylon's deals with the NHS, which saw it receive at least £22 million over the past 3 years alone, and helped it to woo investors, were in part due its links with the Conservative Party and backing of Hancock, the health secretary from 2018 to 2021. The Tories received more than £250,000 in donations from individuals and companies with stakes in Babylon Healthcare, including Hancock, whose failed Tory leadership bid in 2019 received £10,000. Between 2015 and 2022, the company's executives had 17 separate meetings with a total of 19 ministers, including Prime Ministers Theresa May and Boris Johnson, and Philip Hammond and Liz Truss during their time at the Treasury. The promise of Babylon's founder, Ali Parsa, to revolutionize healthcare was an intoxicating one, holding forth to a rapt audience as the Royal College of Physicians, a 1970s concrete block near Regent's Park in central London. He explained that his healthcare startup had developed an AI based system, a doctor in your pocket. That was, he said, better than the real thing. Babylon's app scored better on a set of standard medical exam questions than real doctors, he claimed, and would provide top tier care for a fraction of the cost. We will do the healthcare what Google did with information, he liked to say. We will make healthcare accessible and affordable to every human being on earth. Babylon, he said, was building a super powered machine to diagnose conditions, manage health, and suggest treatments for billions of people. Investors and influential names in and around the Conservative Party lapped it up. Between its founding in 2013 and its 2021 stock market float in New York, the company raised $1.2 billion, making it one of the most lavishly funded medical startups in the world. By comparison, Theranos, the fraudulent Silicon Valley blood test farm founded by Elizabeth Holmes, raised $700 million. Matt Hancock publicly and repeatedly promised the revolutionary company. I'll read that again. Not promise, it's promoted. Matt Hancock publicly and repeatedly promoted the revolutionary company. Dominic Cummings, Boris Johnson's former advisor, agreed a contract for 10 days in July 2018 to advise on communications and recruitment. The company also had advice from those with inside knowledge of how the UK health system worked. Several of the company's investigators, no, reading that again, several of the company's investors donated to the Conservative Party and to Hancock's Tory leadership campaign in 2019. Demis Hassabis, the 47-year-old British billionaire, founder of DeepMind, Google's AI arm, invested early in Babylon. In 2018, Hassabis was appointed by Hancock to a government AI council convened to harness technology that promised to revolutionize our economy and our society. For Parsa, an Iranian immigrant turned healthcare entrepreneur, these were salad days. With Hancock's support, the company picked up numerous NHS contracts, a stamp of approval that helped Parsa expand into 16 countries, where he claimed Babylon was used by more than 10 million people. His wealth exploded. The Sunday Times Rich List put his wealth at £825 million in 2021. What has unfolded in the years since for Parsa, the company he started and his former governance, I'll read that again. What has unfolded in the years since for Parsa, the company he started and his former government cheerleader Hancock, is a reversal of cinematic proportions. Hancock resigned as health secretary over with his aide Gina Coladangelo, now spends his days eating worms and getting punched in the face by footballers as a reality TV contestant. Babylon, once valued at $4.2 billion, collapsed into administration in August 2023. Its British assets were sold for just £500,000 to a little known US rival, which picked up a ragbag of other assets sold for another 6.3 million. The US operation has been put into a court supervised liquidation. Parsa, once the standard bearer for startup Britain, moved to the US and has disappeared from view. Most of his £825 million fortune has evaporated. Parsa did not return calls or emails about the business. He is not accused of criminal wrongdoing. However, as investors comb through the wreckage, the question will be that they will be asking is what was behind Pasha's reverse alchemy? How did he turn 1.2 billion into less than $10 million? Did Parsa lie to investors, or was he simply an entrepreneur who tried hard things and failed? Interviews with former employees paint a picture of a tireless salesman who made promises that stretch far beyond the capabilities of the company's technology. One employee who left in 2021 after 5 years of developing Babylon's artificial intelligence models claimed there was just a lot of smoke and mirrors. We were promising something that would realistically require another 30 years of research and development before it would ever be ready to see the light of day. Parsar's event at the Royal College of Physicians in 2018 was one such instance. He showed how Babylon's AI used a phone's camera to analyze the facial expressions of a female patient to pick up subtle cues that a doctor might miss. This is a real consultation, Parsa said on stage. This is what we have built. None of this is a show. It was a show. The facial analysis tool, a prop for a demo, never made it to the market. The patient in the video was an executive assistant at Babylon, according to former colleagues, and her employment record on LinkedIn. This sleight of hand was a small example of a culture fixated on phone over a trade common in Silicon Valley, but dangerous in healthcare. And it was by employing Silicon Valley techniques that Babylon secured NHS work and won the support of senior politicians, using its deals with the health service to sell itself, investors, and expand globally, including in the US, Rwanda, for heaven's sake, and beyond. A former employee and doctor who left the company because of concerns about the safety of Babylon's bot claimed, we were rushing to push staff out before it was safe. Dr. David Watkins, consultant oncologist at the Royal Marsden, who became Babylon's most outspoken critic, tweeted last month that, that it promoted dangerously flawed technology and put the public at risk of harm. You have to ask, why the hell was Matt Hancock and NHS England ever involved with Babylon? At Babylon's Knightsbridge headquarters, a plush office near Harrods with fake grass, free food, and blackboards covered with scrabbled maths equations, the sales team would bang a gong every time they made a sale. Hugh Harvey, no, reading that again, Hugh Harvey hated the gong. Ecologist, he joined in 2016, aged 35, enthused by Parsa's vision of using AI to deliver better results for patients. Yet he soon realized the company was not what it seemed. At the time, the AI Parsa was selling was a symptom checker that would suggest possible treatments based on answers to prompts. Behind it, though, was not a complete algorithm, but decisions trees written by doctors put into an Excel spreadsheet, Harvey said. It was, in short, a zipper way to look up answers in a medical textbook. Harvey was dismayed, but these were early days. The company was hiring fast and beginning work on a probabilistic decision system that would be intelligent. The system, however, was only just taking shape. Though the salespeople kept banging the gong, when the gong went off, the whole company would get up and cheer, Harvey recalled. But every time it went off, you would find out that we were going to build something different. The product basically became whatever the customer wanted. Harvey left in 2017, convinced that Babylon would fall. Harvey left in 2017, convinced Babylon would fail. He now runs a health tech consultancy. Parsa migrated to Britain from Iran at 16 and earned a PhD in engineering physics from University College London. He set up Babylon in 2013 after stepping down from Circle Health, a company he co founded that became the first private operator to manage NHS hospital, Hinchinbrook, in Huntingdon, Cambridgeshire. The results were mixed. At first, standards at Hinchinbrook improved, but inspectors later found neglected patients and poor staff hygiene. By the time Circle cancelled its NHS contract, Parsa had quit and started Babylon. He quickly entranced investors with his promise of remaking healthcare through the magic of AI. More than one former employee said Parsa was the consummate salesman. He knew which buttons to push. He learnt on his immediate immigrant story, let's say. He learnt on his immigrant story. What the fuck is that? Mind his financial nous from his days as a Goldman Sachs banker and told a story of a magical technology that was first, that was the salve for a cash strapped NHS, for investors, for a health secretary desperate to ride the NHS ship. The app approved proved irresistible. This was nearly a decade before ChatGPT, OpenAI's powerful but error-prone chatbot, awakened awakened the world late last year to the potential of the technology. Babylon had two main products: a bot to assess symptoms and an NHS telehealth service called GP Attend that would connect people free to real NHS doctors on a video call. In Parsa's speech, they were intoxicably linked by building a bot that would analyze AIDS data and get rid of the need for a swathe of consultations with doctors, freeing up those doctors to better spend their time elsewhere. And when it could not, it would act as a co pilot to the GP. It was the fuel for Parsa's vision for modern, streamlined health care delivery model, one that could save the NHS millions and make him a fortune. Yet it turns out that building the machine peddled by Parsa was far harder than he bargained for. If a person is from a medical background perspective, a collection of risk factors, diseases and symptoms, Babylon had to build A1 AI that would use probabilities, a little, all of those altogether. But every patient asks questions differently and experiences ailments in various varied manners. The result is that the basic health data that was meant to train Babylon's AI was a tangle of vagaries and contradictions. This meant the model had to account for a universe of possibilities for any single symptom. So this is not an investigation really. Why am I saying that? Because it is giving a detailed list of things that it had found done wrong, but it doesn't explain what happened to the state, what happened to the idea of accountability, audit, answerability, transparency, and who intervenes. What is the role of the state? What is the role of the judiciary? What is the role of the police? It doesn't say anything. And it doesn't, therefore, extrapolate. It doesn't extrapolate the lessons and apply the lessons onto other projects. So it's like disconnected, disjointed, shall be finishing at this stage because we'll continue on updating on other issues and other aspects and other topics in separate editions. This one should be left exclusively as an investigation into the corruption of HS2 and the corruption of Babylon Health Con by Matthew Hancock. Hancock.